All right. It's not 4 a.m. yet. All right. So let's talk a little Final Fantasy, and then we'll call it a night. So this is my current version. I don't know why I'm shuffling it, because I'm going to have to put these in order anyway. This is my current version of Ice, Lightning, Zeromus, Al-Cid. A little bit different than some of the others that you might have seen running right now. So, obviously, first off, pretty self-explanatory in this type of deck. If we're going for an Al-Cid Zeromus build, then we absolutely need 3 Al-Cids and 3 Zeromus. All lightning, ice forwards. So for those of you that don't know, Al-Cid for 4 CP, at least one of which is ice and one of which is lightning. When Al-Cid enters the field, you can play another ice or lightning forward from your hand of cost 4 or less for free to the field. And then anytime Al-Cid or an ice forward you control enters the field, you can freeze an opponent's forward. And anytime a lightning forward you control attacks, you can dull a forward. So quite a bit of bang for your buck there at 4 CP. Zeromus, kind of the nutty card in here. He's a 3-drop ice lightning forward. So he is playable off of Al-Cid because he's 4 cost or less. He is lightning. He is also ice, so either or. Zeromus is also card name Zemus in all situations. That's not going to impact our deck at all. When Zeromus enters the field or attacks, choose one character, freeze it. So unlike Al-Cid's ability that can only target a forward for a freezing, Zeromus on entry or attacking can freeze any character, so that would include backups and monsters. More importantly, at the end of each of your opponent's turns, they have to dull all the forwards they control. That gets a little spooky because it happens in the end phase, and there is no priority shift in the end phase, so it cannot be responded to. So if your opponent is going to do anything about Zeromus being on your field, they have to do it before the end of their main 2 phase. If they go to end phase, they cannot respond to this dulling of all their forwards. Zeromus also has the bonus of at damage 3 getting haste. So this is the core package of our deck. We're going to want to play Al-Cid as many times as possible to get free forwards out, but also get out lightning forwards that are going to swing and dull things, or ice forwards that are going to put a freeze on a forward as well. So that's the core of our package that we're building around. As I'm sure, now if you watch Travis's video today, which some of us in chat were talking about a little earlier, he is kind of full in on the Cat 8 package with the other Renoa and Squall and Laguna and that whole package. I am not. I started that way and I kind of went away from it. The only Cat 8 as far as that package we're going to be running is Renoa. He's running the other Renoa that fetches you somebody from the break zone on entry and gets cheaper based on Cat 8s. I'm running the Flicker Renoa, 2 of the Flicker Renoa. This gets a little bit fun when Al-Cid is in your hand. I do agree, Travis did bring this Renoa up in his Deck Tech video and said, hey, maybe you want to try it. The only thing he didn't like about it was the fact that if you're going to use it for the Al-Cid play, you basically have to have Al-Cid, Renoa, and a 3rd ice or lightning forward of cost 4 or less that you want to play off of Al-Cid. So that when you play Al-Cid, you follow up and play Renoa, you flicker Al-Cid, who triggers his ability again and plays another one to the field for free. So it is, if you're going for just that play, I totally agree with Travis that is a bit, Christmas landy Is it going to happen? Yeah. But is it going to happen as often as you would probably want it to? No, not at all. So I would agree with him there. However, I don't mind running the Rinoa in my build because Al-Cid is not the only really juicy target. In other builds, yeah, Flickering Zeromus might be nice to put a freeze on somebody and stuff like. But I have some other juicier targets. Al-Cid is a nice target for Rinoa, but I have some other targets. So Rinoa doesn't feel quite as bad in my build as it would if you tried to force it into Travis's build, because we're going to use it for some other stuff. Where Travis and I agree on a couple other things are a very cheap lightning forward in Roche. Roche, dream turn 1. Toss him out there for free. He costs 2, he has haste, and if you don't control any characters, the cost is reduced by 2. And it does not say cannot become 0. So he's absolutely free with haste, and at damage 3, gains 3,000 power. So you have the ability, if he's in your opening hand, to just drop him, do a point of damage, and then go ahead and do the rest of your turn. Also a lightning forward, so anytime he attacks, he's going to get Al-Cid's Dull. This is also a card that is in Travis's build. Him and I agree very much on that one. I want to say his was a 2-of as well. I'm not sure off the top of my head, so please don't hold me to that. Another one that Travis and I absolutely agree on, Charlotte. This is your lightning rod. It's basically going to keep Al-Cid safe. It's going to keep Rinoa safe. Yeah, there are a couple things that are still kind of uh-oh if you do see them. Things like Amaterasu that are going to target the ability of the card and not the forward itself. But anything that is trying to go after your forwards and kill them, Charlotte becomes the nice lightning rod because summons and abilities that your opponent have to choose Charlotte if she's a viable target. And at damage 3, she gains 2,000 power, and any damage dealt to her is reduced by 2,000 as well. So she becomes quite effective. One Shinryu. This is another, Travis and I agree on this spot. This was actually Omega in my very first build. It didn't feel great though. And so I went from Omega to... honestly, I don't even remember who I went to from there. But I ended up landing on Shinryu as a one-of in this deck. The single light forward that's in the deck is Shinryu. It's just nutty against a lot of things that are pretty meta right now. So if you're going up against Samurais, it's going to crush them very quickly, get rid of Tenzen, get rid of any 3 costs that happen to be out on the field. And then Shinryu becomes, in a lot of cases, even more of a lightning rod than Charlotte. If you have them both out on the field, it's just disgusting. But anytime Shinryu hits the board, not only are you nuking any 3, 6, or 9 cost forwards they have for 10k damage, and basically clearing them, but at the beginning of your main phase 1, from there on out, as long as Shinryu is on the board, you reveal the top card of your opponent's deck, so free information for what they're going to draw for half of their turn next time. And if it's a forward, all of the opponent's forwards lose 7,000 power. If it's anything else, you draw 2 cards. So as if getting the free information on half of what they're going to draw next turn wasn't awesome enough, it's either going to drop the power of every forward they have on the board, might even kill some, or net you an additional 2 cards for your turn. You just drew 2, you went into main 1, this trigger went off, there you go. Styx, I'm not at the computer, but cheers and disco lights for you. How are you, my friend? I hope you are doing well. We're testing out new tech on the table across the room. We just finished the close-up table. So we're doing all kinds of stuff. Like you can see at my desk, there is nobody. I'm on the other side of the room. Doing the best you can. Good. Good. Well, thank you for the sub. Cheers for you. So Shinryu becomes an absolute lightning rod. Otherwise, it's just value after value after value. We're going to keep going with the forwards, and then we'll hit the backups and the summons or monsters. If there are any in here, I'm not going to spoil them. So let me just get the forwards for you. All right. I'm going for a little bit of a faster strike than some of these other decks, so I do run Alua. Some people do not in their Al-Cid build, so I run 3 Alua, pretty much a staple for a long time now. Just an all-around good card. Has haste, so it costs 3 or less, so it can be dropped off of Al-Cid's back on its way in. If Alua is chosen by a summoner ability, the first time it happens per turn, that ability is canceled. So a little bit of extra protection for her, forcing you to double tap to get rid of her, basically. And then, of course, her special, which gives all of your forwards haste and reduces the power of all of your opponent's forwards by 2,000. So a nice combat trick, a nice they're going into combat trick. I mean, I think Alua has already been beaten to death as far as explanations at this point, that I don't think I need to go into too much more there. What I do need to go into maybe is some of this weird stuff that's going to come out now. And this is after, again, I've been playing this deck since Opus 14 started. So I've made many changes to it. To Cid Randell. Now, I do not run Remedy in any way, shape, or form. And I do not run any Searcher for Cid. The reason is Cid is a match-dependent card. Like it or not, there are just some decks in the current meta that are so enter the field effect heavy that Cid Randell just shuts them down. Like, literally makes the deck unable to do anything, particularly if you can pop Cid down on the field and protect him with a Charlotte. It just locks their field down to the point where they're not getting value on anything they play, and their deck is dependent on it. So that's the only reason he is here. You'll notice so far, by the way, that every forward in this deck, besides Shinryu at the moment, is playable off of Al-Cid's ability. Every single forward so far is Ice or Lightning and is 4 cost or less. So every single thing is playable on Al-Cid's free Enter the Field effect. On top of Cid Randell, I do agree with Travis and his deck. Again, check out his video. I love Travis to death. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him in real life. I think we've crossed paths at tournaments, but we didn't know each other yet. And actually, I don't even think he knows who the hell I am, but I know who he is. And the next tournament I'm at that he's there, I definitely would like to go shake his hand. I love Travis to death. He's a sweetheart. So he's definitely right that the deck does not have a lot of removal. So here's where I kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent in my build. Again, after a long time. To Barthandelus. If you don't remember, Barthandelus, when he enters the field, you choose up to 2 forwards the opponent controls, and you deal them damage equal to their power minus 2,000 power, or minus 2,000. So if they're an 8K, it's going to pop them with 6,000 damage. He also has the ability that at the end of each of your opponent's turns, dull and freeze all the active backups the opponent controls. Now, this by itself is not straight removal, but it's going to help us build some removal into this deck, as you'll see in a little bit. Again, notice our forwards are still playable by Al-Cid. And if you think about what we were talking about with Rinoa, right? Where we weren't banking on the Al-Cid, Rinoa, and having a third in our hand to play Al-Cid, play Rinoa, and then play the third. We wanted Rinoa to hold more value than just that. So we've got Shinryu as a hell of a target for a Rinoa. We've got Zeromus as an okay target. We've got Al-Cid as a good target. We've got Barthandelus as a great target. Barthandelus with Rinoa is a kill of 2 forwards. Because even if they respond to increase the power of their forwards, if you get the first pop of Barthandelus entering the field and they let that resolve, Rinoa flickering Barthandelus is going to kill both of those forwards if you target the same forwards. You might not want to, and we'll see why in a little bit here. We also have 2 other forwards. I'm going to put these on this end of the spectrum because these are the only other forwards in the deck besides Shinryu that can't be played on the back of Al-Cid. And that's Ramu, Lord of Levin. If you have 2 or more lightning summons in your break zone, Ramu gains haste. And anytime Ramu or a lightning summon that you cast deals damage to a forward, break it. Okay, we'll come back to this in a second. But these are the only 3 forwards that we can't cheat onto the field for free on the back of Al-Cid's 4 cost or less lightning or ice stipulation. And our last 4 forwards kind of cheat on this one, on this Al-Cid ability. 2 Hope and 2 White Tiger Lassie Nimbus. Now, Hope is a wind ice forward, and White Tiger Lassie Nimbus is an ice earth forward. But that means they're both ice forwards for Al-Cid's ability. So you can get them on the field free. White Tiger Lassie Nimbus is brave, and when it enters the field, you can dull and freeze any character, and you get to do that again every time White Tiger attacks. Now, White Tiger does have the text that says you can only pay with CP produced by backups to cast from your hand, to cast White Tiger Lassie Nimbus. That does not impact this ability. That's if you cast it from your hand by paying CP. So we can cheat him onto the field via Al-Cid. Hope is nutty, okay? When an active character opponent controls becomes dull by your summons or abilities, freeze it. Remember, Al-Cid is giving every lightning forward the ability to dull a forward when it swings. And if these swing and dull something, and Hope is on the board, they also get frozen. Now, Hope does have a secondary effect that does not provide any value for this particular build. And that's when a dull character you control becomes active from your own summons or abilities. You can choose up to 2 characters you control and activate them. That will never pop in this deck, but that's okay. That's not why Hope is here. Now, these are only 2 ofs for me because they're not dependent. I don't have to get these to the field to be well ahead or to be pushing and threatening lethal to win. But if they get to the field and particularly get behind, like a Charlotte or a Shinryu, because Shinryu has to leave. They cannot allow you to keep drawing 4 cards or hitting their board for 7k power loss every turn. If you can duck one of these behind these, you are in a tremendously aggressive spot. So if you compare my build to some of the others out there, like Travis's video, he's going very cat 8. He's going for a lot of dull freezing. And I'm going for a certain amount of dull freezing, but I've also sacrificed that a little bit to shut down decks that are heavy on the enter the field effects. And if I don't care, their deck isn't, then hey, here's 4 CP just sitting here when I draw it. But I also wanted to work in some removal. And we're going to get to how that removal plays now. So let's do our summons next, so that we can start putting pieces together here. I am running a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I could have sworn I was at 8. Did I change that? Nope, I just missed one. See, I knew my deck enough to know I was missing one. Travis and I agree. 5-drop Odin is a hell of an X-Burst, is a hell of a summon. Choose a forward across 5 or less, break it. It gets cheaper by 3 if you're at 5 damage. So yeah, I'm running 2 of those. Really doesn't matter with Ramuh because Ramuh's ability, I mean, this is going to break it anyway. So, but if these are in the break zone, they can contribute to Ramuh's haste. So they do have a side benefit there. Next, 3 Raiden Revenant Wings. Deal 2,000 damage to all the active forwards opponent controls, draw a card. I mean, pretty self-explanatory with Ramuh, right? If you can get Ramuh on the field and all their forwards are up, or a lot of their forwards are up, and Ramuh is on your field and you cast this, this is a lightning summon that deals damage to their forwards, and because of that, Ramuh will automatically break them. So it's a 1 CP board clear of active forwards if it resolves, and it's going to draw you a card. But not only for this obvious play, but we kind of harken back to an older play in Ice Lightning by using Raiden Revenant Wings with Barthandelus. Because remember, Barthandelus tags 2 forwards, active or dull, right, for damage equal to their power minus 2,000. Well, Raiden Revenant Wings just happens to deal 2,000 damage. They have to be active for Raiden to work, and where they don't have to necessarily be active for Barthandelus to work. But if you cast Raiden Revenant Wings first and let it resolve, all of their active forwards take 2,000 damage, and you draw a card, and then you follow up by playing Barthandelus, now it really doesn't matter what they do. The only way they're going to escape having 2 forwards nuked by Barthandelus is if they make them untargetable or if they bounce them back to their own hand. A power increase is not going to save them at this point because they've already taken and resolved the 2,000 damage. Barthandelus's effect deals damage equal to their power minus 2,000. So even if they raise their power level with summons, it's just going to keep raising the amount of damage they are going to take. Let's say we target 2 8,000 power forwards. That we want to get rid of these. We cast Raiden, deal 2,000 to all active forwards, which would include Al-Cid and Zeromus. That resolves, we draw a card. When we play Barthandelus and target Al-Cid and Zeromus, they're each currently going to take 6,000 damage. But if they use a summon to increase Al-Cid's power by 2,000, that will go on the stack on top of Barthandelus, resolve first, which makes Al-Cid's power 10,000, and then Barthandelus says, oh, your power is 10,000, I'm going to deal you damage equal to 10,000 minus 2,000, so I'm going to ping you for 8,000, and you already took 2, so that equals 10,000, you're dead. So we've started to build a removal package around a few different plays here. To finish that removal package off, we've kind of got the exact opposite. It still works. It doesn't jive with Ramuh anymore because it's an ice summon, not a lightning summon, but that's okay. But it certainly jives with Barthandelus, where you can choose a dull forward, deal it 4,000 damage, draw a card on Siobhan. So you can ping a dull forward with 4K. It also, both of these summons are going to work cooperatively with some of the stuff you're going to see in the backup line. So these summons aren't necessarily dependent on Ramuh or Barthandelus being out. They're just nice setup and finishing pieces for those 2 different forwards. But they're not totally drawn to just those 2 cards. Notice that our entire summon package X bursts. That was, not something I generally build around, the idea of X bursting, but having Ramuh on the field and having this X burst is just absolutely tremendous. You pay nothing and it's non-responsive. They can't respond to it, all because you just had Ramuh on the field and Raiden popped as an X burst. Oh, and by the way, draw a card for your trouble. So kind of nutty. That's our summon package. No monster package. No monster package. In the backup package, we are running 1 Cosmos. Not specifically for Shinryu. I mean, this is the only light forward we have, so we could get away with no Cosmos. But Cosmos does give us the ability to color fix between lightning and ice, our primary colors if need be. But it also does bring Hope and White Tiger online without the requirement of them coming in off of Al-Cid's back. Yes, if I'm going to use Cosmos for Earth, I have to meet the White Tiger requirement of paying with backups only. So I can dull Cosmos for Earth and then dull 2 ice backups and play White Tiger. But it makes them unironically playable. I can actually get these out without having to get them out on the back of Al-Cid simply because they're ice forwards. So they are never dead. They can be discarded for CP of other things. I can still get them on the field even if for some reason I don't see an Al-Cid for a while, whatever the case may be. When we talk about other standard kind of ice lightning-ish packages, this is one that nobody's going to be surprised about. 3 Harley, 3 Edward. Harley is a 2-cost ice backup, great for turn 1 if you can get it. That makes Edward cheaper by 2. So Edward will cost 1. And when Edward hits the field, they discard a card. But more importantly, you'll notice I'm not going for a ton of discard here. That's not the aim of the game. Edward is there for the summon cancel. He has a special for dulling him and discarding a card named Edward. You can choose 1 summon and just straight out cancel its effect. Pretty nifty. Pretty nifty. Again, this is another one where Travis and I, he talked about Harley, or he talked about Edward more specifically, and decided not to go with it. I think it's too valuable to the way I have this built. They want to get rid of Shinryu. I want to be able to cancel that. They want to get rid of Charlotte. I want to be able to cancel that. They want to Amat, Al-Cid, so that I don't get this effect, or I don't get Barthandelus's effect. I want to be able to cancel that. The discard, sure, it's nice. It's a nice side perk, but that's not why it's here. You can see that there really isn't any other discard being built into the deck here. On the lightning side of things, keeping things cheap to get backups out early, we've got 2 Rafa. We don't care about the Merrick. Is that who it is? I don't even remember who it is. Yeah, Merrick. We don't care about that ability. We do care that at damage 3, Rafa can be dulled and sacked and deal 4,000 damage to up to 3 forwards, which just happens to coincide extremely nicely with Siobhan and with Raiden Revenant Wings and with Barthandelus or with a Lewis special. I mean, it works in multiple different ways. And it's a breakable backup in case we want to play a different backup at some point. I run 2 of the 8-drop Eggs Deaths. 1, I want to see them a little more often than running 1. 8 CP to break their best forward on the field, while also playing a 4-cost or less, which is everything in our break zone except these 3 forwards. Everything is a viable target for Eggs Death. Grab an Al-Cid, play something else from your hand on Al-Cid. Grab a Renoa, Flicker, whatever you want to do from your break zone. These are the only 3 that can't be targeted by that. So because of that heavy skew, I do want to see this more than just, once every blue moon in an occasional game. So I run 2. 3, I think, is too many because I'm not super looking to get that special off. But 2 does give me the ability to get that special off to choose a forward and remove it from the game for very cheap if I happen to get that second X-Death in my hand. Now we're kind of getting to some weird ones. This one isn't too weird. Let's put you right here. This one's just kind of neat. And I know X-Death is in a little bit of a glare there, but that's fine. We already talked about him. This red mage is kind of neat. That red mage is the flip from the top of your deck until you reveal an earth or wind card. There's our targets. We're either going to get, by playing red mage, we're either bringing Nimbus to our hand or Hope to our hand, both of which are ice forwards that can be played off of Al-Cid. I mean, I don't think I really need to say much more. It's not using like the old one to go search for writs, or using this to go search for writs. We actually have a target in both elements, in earth and in wind. Neither of which we really have a problem seeing. One snow. If you are established at board state, just a decent board state, and you have a turn where you can drop that snow, because it is 4 CP that you're not getting any immediate effect off of, unless you happen to drop it in main 1 and you already have forwards out that are going to swing that turn, then you are, by proxy, getting an effect off of that card. But if you have 4 CP to spare, this starts making things very disgusting. Remember, Al-Cid already allows all lightning forwards to dull on swing. Snow allows all forwards to dull on swing, meaning every lightning forward now gets to dull 2 targets every time it swings. Alua goes to combat with Snow on the board and Al-Cid on the board. She gets to dull 2 targets on that swing. That's nutty. But then what's also very nutty is the Snow and Hope interaction that some people have played around with in the previous Opus 12, I think it was, right? No, 13, I was right. Anytime a character your opponent controls becomes dull due to your summons or abilities, it also gets frozen. So if Hope is on the board with Al-Cid and Snow, and Alua swings, she is going to dull and freeze 2 of your opponent's forwards. And I know that might start to sound like, okay, wow, you absolutely have to be in Christmas land to do that. But do you really? If your turn started with Alua and Snow on your board, that was your turn. They pass to you, you draw your 2 cards, you play Al-Cid, you play Hope for free off of Al-Cid, and you go to combat. How Christmas land was that? This is not an unreasonable thing to have on board, and this is not an unreasonable play. You don't have to sit there and wait for these things to come together and hopefully come together. Now, he is only a 1-of because he is slow. And the last thing I really want to do is get into a turn 1 Snow. Like, that feels horrible. That feels absolutely awful. So if you want to mess around with this, in my particular build of this, and you want to go with more Snow, go for it. Let me know how it plays out. At one point, I had him at 2, but I did have too many turn 1. God, I mulliganed, and I got to play Snow. Ugh, that feels gross. Because you're spending 4, you're not searching a card or anything, so it is a true spend of 4, and you get no effect off of it at all. Nothing. You are hoping that it will pay off in the later game. So I run him as a one of, okay, I am now so far ahead, I'm going to close this game out. It is disgusting, Medic. It can get very disgusting. 3 more cards. Aldo. Aldo, when he enters the field, lets you search for a lightning forward and add it to your hand. Originally, this was Gramus to go get Al-Cid. I figured I was willing to pay the 1 more extra CP to literally go get any lightning forward. That felt fine to me. So if you want to switch this for a 3 cost just to have a slightly lower curve, I mean, if you look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ideally, this will cost 1. So 7, 8, 9 of our backups are cost 2 or less, which is, for me, it's fine curve-wise. I'm not worried about it. But if you want to curve it down a little bit, you might want to take Aldo out and put Gramus back in. He was here originally. That's only going to let you go get Al-Cid, where Aldo is going to let you get Alua, Al-Cid, Zeromus, Roche, or Ramu. So, if you're sitting on a bunch of Raiden's Revenant wings and they've got a big board, maybe you play Aldo to go get Ramu. It gives you, I think it gives you a little more flexibility. That's all. The last 2 cards are 2 backups that I don't think... yeah, it is absolutely a less telegraphed searcher, Medic. 100%. 100%. In fact, if I end up having to play him turn 1, I typically do not go get Al-Cid. I typically go grab Alua and let you take another turn or 2 before you figure out what I'm on. If I have to turn 1 that Aldo... It's tempting to go get Al-Cid, or if you already have Al-Cid, go get Zeromus, or, start down that line. I like playing Al-Cid on either, if I can turn 1 into 2 backups, I like playing him on turn 2. But I really want to play him by turn 3. So if I have to use Aldo to go get him, fine. But if I have to turn 1 Aldo, normally I'm going to go grab Alua, or I'm going to go grab Roche. Particularly if I've been in a weird spot and I've only let you see that I'm playing Lightning so far. If I've been able to hide the fact that I'm also on ice. So yeah, you definitely can use it to keep things less telegraphed. Less telegraphed. The last 2 cards are backup that has been in and out of this deck probably 4 times now, and he's still now in here. He's back in here as a 2 of, and that's Eduardo. And you'd be forgiven if you don't remember what Eduardo did. It came out in Opus 12. When Eduardo enters the field, dull all the characters opponent controls. Everything. Forwards, backups, monsters. Dull it all when Eduardo enters the field. The number of times I have pushed to 4 or 5 damage and my opponent has just thrown everything at the board to stabilize and to stop me from swinging, to just have me drop an Eduardo and swing for those last 2 points of damage, is absolutely disgusting. It sucks. He's only a 2 of, for kind of the same reason Snow's only a 1 of. You really don't want, and I've had to do it, play an Eduardo turn 1 for no value because it was the only backup I got in my mulligan. Luckily, the odds are astronomically against that, so it'll be once in a blue moon. But it is a little bit of my own little spicy tech. Eduardo with Hope on the field is gross. It's so gross. Remember, Hope. If an active character opponent controls becomes dulled by your summons or abilities, freeze it too. Eduardo dulls all their characters. So any of their monsters, forwards, or backups that were active when Eduardo hit the field get dull and frozen. And all you gotta do for that combo is have Hope out when you play Eduardo. Like, I stayed away from any dreamy Christmas land crazy ass combos, but there are some absolutely bonkers combos in here that make it, again, I've been playing it for months, This probably won't be the build a month from now, but this is the current version of it. Eduardo also has a special. Dire Dirge, for a discard of card name Eduardo and 5 ice CP, you can break all the... Yeah, exactly, Medic. Let me just go ahead and buy myself a second turn. It's a paradise without, you know, with what, but you let them draw. Break all the doll backups. Now, I have used that special. Keep in mind, though, the wording is break all the doll backups, so it includes yours. And the cost is a discard of card Eduardo and 5 ice CP. So in a perfect world, you discard Eduardo and you discard 3 ice cards from your hand to pay for that special, leaving all of your backups up. So none of them are dull. In a less than perfect world, you dull 1 backup to pay for those 5 ICP, and you lose that 1 backup when the ability goes off. This ability I've only used in a serious game once, and it was because I was so far ahead that I didn't care. So don't bank on really ever getting that special off in a meaningful fashion. It might happen once in 100 games. But I was so far ahead in one, I had CP left over in my hand, so I was like, well, I'm gonna have to discard 1 card anyway if I just end my turn, so you know what, I'm gonna take out 4 other 5 backups right now, why not? Yeah, so here, discard Eduardo, 3 cards, I'm down under 5, but yeah. He's a 2 of because I do wanna see him more often than Snow, but not a 3 of because I really don't want to play him turn 1. I really just want to get him and then hold on to him. This is, for a lack of a better comparison, this is my deck's surprise Bahamut Zero. You thought you were safe, you built up a whole big wall, and I just put it down and swung through it. You know, this is my deck's surprise Bahamut Zero. Except it doesn't cost 6, and I net a backup body off of it in case the game does go a little longer. So that's kind of my spicy little tech in there right now. He was at 3, he was at 1. I found 2 seems to work the best. If I can, I will hold these in my hand for as long as possible. Like, obviously, if this is my starting hand after a mulligan, then yeah, I'm gonna ditch Eduardo and play Harley. But if I can hide the fact that Eduardo is even a card in my deck, I will. I will hold on to a mulligan Eduardo as long as I can. If I draw the second one, but it still doesn't prohibit me from playing stuff, until it becomes I have to discard it, otherwise I'm just being silly, I will keep these in my hand so that you don't even get a peek at them in my break zone. And you better play a Zidane or something if you want to see them. So this is my current Ice Lightning deck. A couple of the pieces, I know I talked about this going through here, but just to go back, a couple of the pieces that kind of keep going back and forth right now for me a little bit. The forward package has stayed the same since the last time I iterated on it, which was I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I don't think it's going to change much. I don't think it's going to change much. I wanted to see if Travis's video gave me an idea of maybe changing 1 or 2, but he was so invested in the Cat 8 package, and if you look at this deck and that deck, they just have slightly different play styles. This is a little more fast tempo aggressive. He does add some red mage backups to try and give everybody haste and things like that. But Ramu has haste as long as I've got 2 summons in the break zone. Roche has haste already. Alua has haste and can give everybody haste. Zeromus has haste on 3 damage. So I really wasn't worried about the red mage, giving Renoa haste and things like that. And he's so invested in the Cat 8 package that, he's more... His is more... I would say his is probably a little more mid-range than this. This is a little, but they're both kind of mid-game. Mine's maybe just a shade more aggressive. So yeah, some of the things that you might, if you want to mess with, we already talked about Aldo, maybe running Gramus. Maybe in your meta, Sid Randell doesn't really benefit you. And if you're not going to run Cid Randell, then you've got 2 forward slots that you know can go into something else. If you do not like either the Ramu play or the Barthandelus play, if you like this one but you don't like this one, or vice versa, then you kind of have a big window of opportunity to change some things around. Because if I took Barthandelus out, I would also take out Ramu, Revenant Wings, and Siobhan. Yes, Siobhan and Revenant Wings work with some of the stuff we're doing back here with like Rafa and things like that, but not to the extent that they are worth it. So if you don't like Ramu or you don't like Barthandelus, then you probably want to reconsider these 6 summons as well. In which case, because I've played through a bunch of this, let me make a recommendation. If you're going to take Barthandelus or Ramu out, I would trade one of the sets of 2 for the 2-drop Ice Lightning Sephiroth that allows you to have them freeze a forward and discard 1, or ping an active forward with 5k. You'll probably only use that first ability once in a blue moon. So if you're going to replace one of these, put in 2 Sephiroths instead. At that point, you might consider keeping these because of the combination that you can do on that 5k damage with the combination of Rafa. It starts to play a little better, but I still don't think it's quite there that you would keep the Revenant Wings and the Siobhan. I still think if you got rid of either of these, then the summons package totally gets reworked as well. So Ice Lightning 2-drop Sephiroth is definitely a consideration if one of these 2 forwards is not to your liking. Or if Cid Randell, you don't have, like I said, that meta that, you know somebody's going to be playing a heavy enter the field effect deck, then maybe you go ahead and take these out and put the Sephiroths in that spot instead. He's been in and out of this deck quite a few times. The backup line has changed a couple of different times. I can see an argument for not having Harley Edward, but I will tell you what, in my experience with this deck, more often than not, if you Edward cancel a summon, you are going to win the game. Because the summon is to get out of the ditch, to either take care of Charlotte, to either take care of Shinryu, to either cancel with an Amaterasu, Al-Cid's Enter the Field effect. And if you cancel a summon with this, you're probably going to win, because that summon they were probably banking on keeping them back or putting them back in the game, or at least stabilizing from the lightning forward swinging and dulling shit all over the board. So yeah, I would recommend keep them, but if you don't want to, then yeah, maybe you do want to explore the other Renoa in this place and the Laguna in this place, and then Squall down in this spot and Quistis down in this spot, which would put you a bit more in line, still quite different, but still but a bit more in line with kind of Travis's build, and would allow you to continue building on the removal, which was my whole reason for Barthandelus, Raiden, Odin, Siobhan, Ramu, Exdeath. That is my removal package. So for things that don't like to be dulled or frozen or don't let you, I can still take them out consistently. So yeah. You think Harley Edward feels necessary. You need some form of protection other than Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte is an absolute lightning rod, but you're right. I like being able to cancel. And you know what? Shinryu might as well just be a third frickin' Charlotte on a really big body, because just if Shinryu resolves that main one effect, it puts you so far ahead. Like, no matter how big a board is, I almost want their top card to be anything other than a forward. Because in this deck, if you draw 4 cards on a turn and you already had 3 cards in your hand, holy hell. Holy hell. 2 or 3 backups, 3 cards in hand, and you draw 4. You're probably putting 4 forwards down that turn. and not even thinking about it. Al-Cid's going to make one of the damn things free. You know? So it gets nutty. It is a blast to play. My son hates playing against it because if it gets ahead of you, it's hard to come back. It is very hard to come back, and it wants to get ahead of you through all of the different early game hasty type plays, Alua, Roche. Roche doesn't feel bad later either. Damage 3 is a 7k, 2 cost with haste. That's not too... Oh, by the way, if Al-Cid's out, it's going to dull when it swings. So this is the deck I've been having a lot of fun with lately. I hope you enjoy it. If you mess around with it, by all means, let me know. And if you've changed things, I know there's some other cute techie plays that you can do with some off-color Ice X forwards. These are the two that I've had the most success with. Speaking of lightning rods, Nimbus becomes another lightning rod. So there's so much protection built in that it gets really hard. If it just draws okay and it tags you in the first 2 or 3 turns with 2 or 3 damage, you're in a tough spot. You're in a tough spot, and all I need is that one turn where you let me keep 3 forwards on the board and drop an Eduardo or drop a Snow, and it's over, man. It's over. So next stream, I'll actually play a few games with this. Hopefully Torchwick will want to play. He didn't want to play tonight. He was doing some stuff, and I had to do tech to make sure this all worked anyway. So on Wednesday, I'll actually play this deck at the table here, see if Torchwick will go a few rounds, and you can see it in action. I've only ever really had it brick and totally kill me once, and it's probably this version of it probably has about 50 games in. A lifetime of messing with this particular combination probably has about 200 games in now. I only had it ever really brick on me one time. I mulliganed into just Snow as my only backup in my hand, and then did not draw a backup for 3 turns. I still won that game because since I had to, I Al-Cided into Zeromus, and then the following turn dropped Alua. Those 3 they couldn't get rid of. They didn't draw all that well. They didn't brick like I did, but they didn't draw favorably to deal with this. And so it got a turn of 3 damage. It got a turn of 2 damage. And then I had Snow out, and it was just pick them apart from there. So a little bit of luck that they didn't draw something to get themselves back in the game and stabilize, because I had bricked really hard, but still managed to win it. So it can be overly aggressive when it needs to be, because if you're doing 3 damage per turn, that's only 3 turns before the game's over. So enjoy it. Have fun. It has been fun hanging out with all of you tonight. I hope the setup looked nice. I hope you were able to see everything. I mean, the camera shot looks great from my side on the tablet here. A little bit of glare right where we knew there was going to be, and not much I can really do about that. I think this is a great shot for doing something like a deck tech. There's plenty of room. It's a 4K image, downscaled, of course, into 1080 for the stream, but you can see everything. I think it looks great. I hope it sounds great. We're still going to continue to set up the room shot camera so that you can see me at this table and the other people that'll be at the table. And then, of course, when we're just playing games, I'll be over behind the computer. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Give me some feedback in any way you want to. Send me a message or anything. And until Wednesday, stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers. Later.